y'all. Welcome to part 2 of our episode with Alex Burton and Brandon Torres. If you guys haven't already, please like, subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram and TikTok, and leave us a 5-star rating anywhere you can. We greatly appreciate it. All right, and with that, we'll get into part 2.
Another question that I had around producing is quoting. So what do you think are the most important things, like by default, that have to be on your quote?
And do you include, like a buffer? Like we kind of talked about that before, but do you say, hey, this is my quote, and then say, well, it's probably going to be 30% higher than that? Is there a buffer that you automatically include, or how do you go about that?
So there's a book that I highly recommend looking at, and it actually works really well for producing. It's called Gap Selling. And I know I've talked about it like a couple times, and I've pretty much have learned to live by it. So I start off, and they say a discovery meeting and everything, you shouldn't be talking money. That's what everybody's real taboo about, talking about money. But I like to get that out of the way right away. You talk about money immediately. What ends up happening is you set expectations, you set goals, you set the idea for how much they want to ask for. If you pussyfoot around and don't talk about money right away, what ends up happening is that becomes the $1 million project. It becomes something that everybody wants to add more to. But if you start saying, hey, generally, and what I would always do when I quote is I give it...
I think you end up doing more than you're supposed to. If you don't talk about money,
that's what I'm saying. You end up doing more than you're supposed to.
Yeah, you put in more on your shoulders than you should.
You start right away. That's the first thing. You go, what are you guys looking at your return? You tell them, you go, what do you think this return is going to give you? What do you think is going to happen? So as far as let's talk clients and let's talk advertising, you want to look at them and go, okay, you should be spending a certain percentage of what you think you're going to get back. If you're going to get 1 million sales, or if you're going to get, let's say you get 100, you're only anticipating 100 sales, but the thing you're selling is $600, right? Do the math. You basically go, okay, well, let's start with small. Let's say 10% of that budget, 20% of that budget, or what you're getting back. You go in there and you start saying that's what you should be putting into it, because you need to know that to get to that number, it's going to cost you a certain amount. Yeah. There's that old adage of, you don't make money without money. Like, you need money to make money. And that's the truth. Yeah. Because everything costs. Putting your ad in certain areas, but being able to get a good view out there. So I don't like starting with a low number. They'll mention a low number, they'll say a low number, and what I do every negotiation is I say the high number, then I say the low number, because they remember more the high number. They will pick up the high number faster than they do that low number. You say, this could cost, generally, let's say, and I'm going real like low end. This is like for let's say social media interaction stuff. You're saying, $50K to $20K. This is if you've got a small, quick band of people that are working at things. But majority of commercials, if you're looking at broadcasting, you're looking at putting this out there. You need to know what their goals are. If they're just going to be like, we're going to put it on Facebook and that's it, then you say, okay, well, you kind of start looking at, that tells you something. That tells you if they're just looking at putting it on Facebook, then they obviously either A, don't know what is possible out there. They don't know that they could advertise on the streaming platforms like Hulu, and hell, coming up, you're going to be able to advertise on Prime. Locally, you will be able to advertise local stuff on Prime, and I've got a broker for that. That what ends up happening is, you tell them, where do you want to get this out to? How many people do you want to see this? Then you say, okay, well, I want to get about 1 million views on this, 1 million eyes on this. And I'm like, how do you plan on measuring that analytic? Is that going to be just in your YouTube? Or are you wanting something that just blows up on YouTube and that's where you think all your 1 million views are going to be? No. I mean, that's a stupid idea. That doesn't work. But you tell them exactly, if you're looking to get these many eyes on this is how you do it. You ask them, they're going to ask, okay, well, what is that looking like? And then you say, I'm talking that's 125 plus. You're looking at, really, you can do a commercial. Hell, you could do a commercial for $1 million. You can. Obviously, Super Bowl commercials, things like that. They spend millions just to get the spot. They do $1 million just to shoot the commercial. You can do that. That's an endless amount. But if you're in the wheelhouse of saying, I shoot 250,000 down to 125,000, 250,000, that's when they're, but then they say 125,000. You also want to deal with your ratios when you're negotiating. You want to set a 65%, a 75%, 85%, even a 95, and I go to 100%. Like I kind of just shave off, because what I'm doing is I'm starting at that 100%. I'm saying this is 100% of what I want to make. Now, mind you, out of that 100% of what I want to make, obviously 15%, maybe 20% sometimes it depends on the project itself and what you're doing, is going to be your buffer, because you never know. There's always these things that you spend, the invisible expenditures come in. And then you give yourself you double that, and you say, okay, well, that'll also to take care of certain things. Like if we get a day where we don't get this shot and I need to go ahead and pay another hour for everybody to work, screw it. I can wave it off and say, let's do it because we need this shot.
So you suggest like a 50% or 20%?
No. So I usually do
as a buffer, or?
So you could go 20-25%. You go 20-25%, hell, 30% if it comes down to it. It does depend on what you're doing. So let's take
that is separate from your.
Oh, that's separate from what you're using. Now, what I would say is one of the buffer, so it depends. Like if they're spending into the hundreds for broadcast commercial stuff, you're going to be looking at the fact that, well, you're already spending this much. You need to understand that there are things we don't know about. Like when you get into broadcast stuff, you get into hidden fees that exist, like legal fees. Like there's certain things. We did a law commercial, and they had to spend the extra money to get it past the bar, because the bar didn't want to approve of it, because the bar has to approve of it before anything. And we had to spend extra money to get past the bar, because we had to re-edit a certain way so that it made it feel like we weren't saying, like we were killing a child, because this literally was a commercial where the mother's in the car, she hands the child the little stuffed monkey, and the stuffed monkey's there. And next thing you know, she gets hit, and it's like it's one of those things where they get hit, and the glass goes shh, and it's all slow mo, and it says accidents, blah blah blah. You could do it, loss of life, la la la. When we had it, it said loss of life, and the little girl flying like that. At that point, they're like, please don't do this.
Oh shit!
Please don't show that.
Oh my god!
And I'm like, that was the edit, but we were trying to, like, this lawyer wanted to get serious about it. He's like, I want to show people this is important. But the bar's like, we don't want that. Don't put the graphics where the little girl is. We want to separate that. Great. We had to go back to editing. We had to go back and come up with a new way to edit it so those graphics show up at that spot. That was another round of editing that we didn't know we had to pay for. Audio stuff. We had to take out certain things out of audio of the little girl.
Like, for example, in that case, I guess that was approved by the client agency or whatever, right?
Oh yeah, the lawyer.
So when it comes to that, do you think that should be expense of the client or of the production?
I mean, because
do you go to them after the fact and say, hey, we need more money because of X, Y, and Z, or is that buffer to cover that?
So it depends. Now, here's the thing. This was one thing I was not aware that this kind of thing would be there, and I didn't know how leery they would be about the child and that graphic being there. The graphic is really just a word saying loss of life, and I didn't know how big that was going to be. Yeah. But going back to it, I had to go to him, and I had to say, hey man, number one, this is not my world. This is the bar, and it's your world, and you're the lawyer. You should have realized that maybe. But what he said is, I was gambling a little bit. He goes, I was kind of trying to push it through. He knew they were going to kind of waive it, and like they were going to red flag it.
So he knew there was going to be a cause.
He had a feeling on that. So you have to feel these things out. Everything is all about negotiation and where you stand. Like there's a certain aspect that these are things a client is savvy enough to know what his industry, or if the bar is going to red flag that and say they don't. Yeah. He should know that.
I had that experience in a project. It's I know you remember Nampons.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I should say that.
I think I remember seeing it. Yeah.
So it's
for your nose, right?
For nosebleeds. It's specifically for nosebleeds.
I thought it was like you said tampons.
Yeah,
like,
that's the name,
tampons
right?
in Vietnam.
So it's exactly what you think it is.
Amazon was really picky at showing blood, and the client wanted blood.
Yeah.
The client wanted to see the
nosebleeds. Yeah.
Yeah, the client wanted to see the blood dripping. And
so you could have blood in there?
So Amazon said, no, we cannot show that. So we had to go and re-edit.
But that's
most
how
of the
you
stuff.
shot it, as with blood everywhere.
That's what the client wanted.
Oh my
That's
God.
what we
That's
did.
the other reason
So
you
did you
should
go reshoot it, or would you?
No, we just used the shots that she
okay.
was
So
applying,
Yeah.
just the product.
That's
and
the
whatnot.
other
Oh,
reason
gotcha.
you should put in that little buffer, because sometimes you'll get a client who they're adamant about something, but you know it won't work. But the problem being is when someone comes to the table, they have these fixed ideas, and you have to look at them and go, okay, you obviously came to the table thinking this idea, this is how it was going to work. And that automatically has to put in your head, okay, well, we're probably going to have to do it because we have to appease the client. So I'm going to pack that in to an extra amount of shooting, cost this much, and we're going to go ahead and say that. Now, mind you, when you're negotiating, you take that 100%, right? And you're working your way down, you're negotiating, and they want to negotiate that they want to do it cheaper no matter what. But you should always negotiate down. When you negotiate down, you're losing something, and they have to lose something, and they have to give up things. And you have to understand that when you finally get to that 65, now you're going to not just say, I'm going to give up something. You have to say, okay, well, I'm obviously giving up. This is going to be a tight budget. You have to turn around and also ask for something. When you get down to 75, 65, wherever you want to land, you need to be the one that says, okay, I can do that for you. Because it's like, oh, you're twisting my arm. I get it, but I need this from you. Like, I need this from you. Or maybe if it's one of those things, I need extra of the whatever. Or if it's a matter of, and everybody knows.
But I need that, like what specifically?
Depends. You ever shot a product that you absolutely wish you could have this, or your client can have it? Let's say it was the cookware, right? Let's say they want that. Let's say they weren't originally going to walk away with that. They're going to originally walk away with that, but you want to go like, I want some of my crew, like if we're going to do it cheap, I want some of my crew to get something out of this. I want them to know they get something out of this. Because here's the thing, that helps you as a producer. That helps you be able to say, my crew loves to work with me. They will come and they will drop jobs just to come work with me because they know they get stuff. They know they get things. I may not be paying right away. And that's the other thing. You and I talked about this early on, paying early, paying fast. Like, when it comes to these 2-day commercials, stuff like that, people love the idea. They don't like the idea of like, oh, I've got a 2-week buffer and now I need to do this. Find a way where you can, in what departments you can, to give a pay to people fast. Now, mind you, that's going to hurt some of the heads of your departments. That's going to hurt a couple of them, but they get a lot more out of this. What they're getting out of this, your heads of departments, your director, your DP, what they're getting out of it is they get a reel. They get seen as a director. They get experience as a director. Not saying that experience costs something, but paying a normal 2-week is standard. Paying a normal 1 week later, standard. But if you can pay on the day that you wrap, for anybody that's like your lower tiered PAs, your G&E, your all these, you could pay that.
All
Most
those
people,
guys would be pumped, you know.
and they're
It's
more
just, like,
likely to,
super
yeah.
appreciative, and they're more likely to come back and be in good spirits.
They're also
you know?
more
and-
likely to not work and always twist you on the rate. They are more likely to go, hey, I know I'm going to get that quick. I know that's going to be something I could pay. I can pay my stuff on Monday.
Yeah.
Not worried about it. And that's a big smart thing I think you've been doing, is you've come up with that system. And it sucks because there is a little bit of that where it does hurt your bottom line, but that's another reason you want to pad that. You're not, when you get in this job and you get called for this job, that padding isn't because, oh, I have to scrape some off the top.
Yeah.
No, that padding right there is so that you can afford to constantly be the guy who delivers, who constantly is the production that delivers, and you can be the person that's going to make that. Don't be afraid to. I always say to people, don't be afraid of the attitude of saying, you know what, you need me more than I need you. You know, the idea of saying no is super important. And people need to understand that they came to you. And yes, you may have sought out clients. You may have sought out people that were looking for something. But the reality of that is they're going to need you more than you need them. And they could go shoot this on their own. They could do this with Cousin Earl out there and say, yeah, we're going to go shoot this. But it's not going to look anything like you have it. I think we did, what's that project? The guy comes to us and he's like, I need 2 things. I need a Sasquatch and I need the what? Honestly,
that light bulb
That's
thing.
a project that I don't look at as like, oh, this is pinnacle of anything I love or did. all I did was one thing. I served his crazy idea, and I found a way to make it work. Because when you come to the table and you're like, no, 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 a lot of no's, don't be ready with no's. Be ready with solutions. Be ready with facts. Be ready with something to back it up. Don't say no. When somebody has this an idea, be like, yeah, like that's a real complex idea. Maybe we should have that in two separate things. Or say, are you afraid of maybe the what turning out to sound like the old Budweiser, what's up, you know? Or, you know, do you feel like it's maybe too close? You start talking.
Just
and
give
create
options.
Dialogue. You give options. You have a dialogue at all times.
Yeah, that's coming back to the payment. Yeah, that was one of the things that I started to practice based on the experience that I'd had in the previous studio, and I never liked the way of having to go home after a 10, 12 hours day and just kind of wait 15 days, 30 days for it.
Yeah. It's always nice to have it the day of.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
I mean, they hurried up. They did the job. They were there doing the job. You hurried up and you paid them. That honestly, what that does, it buys you goodwill. It buys you goodwill. Definitely. It buys you, like, you are, because there are going to be some projects that, let's say you're in the middle of January and it's a slow season. And there's a project, and that project is, they did not do the budget that they wanted to do, but they're humble. They're willing to work with you. They're willing to give you a lot of leeway to do the things you want to do, or the things that you can get done quick. Now, let's say you're in a situation like, I've got to get a crew together. Well, there are guys that you've paid on time, and you've paid out of right away, exactly doing that. What ends up happening is if you call them up, you tell them, hey, I'm giving you first right of refusal. You say, look, it's not your rate. It's not exactly what you want. But if you got a day to squeeze in between two big jobs, why not take something that is at least fair, at least livable? Mind you, you don't want to cut everybody's rate at all times, but you do want to be able to offer people and say, hey, are you feeling like making, a couple hundred here to show up and maybe just, throw some stuff together, do this, and it's an easy cake kind of job? Then you go, yeah, because they will show up. It's camaraderie. They know you think about them, and they're willing to say, well, damn, every time I work for this guy, he pays me the moment we're done, and like, his check's always good, and every time it's pretty enjoyable. Why not? I'd rather take that job than to go and travel somewhere, go somewhere and do something that's got a lot more money, but with people I don't even know, and I don't even know if this company pays on time.
Well, you have to wait. You have to wait a month for it.
Oh yeah, a net 30. I actually
I feel like net 30 is low. It's like usually, at least I don't know.
Let's put it this way: if I get someone that offers me net 30, I give a ridiculous rate. I give a ridiculous rate, because I'm telling them, you're paying for the time that I don't have this money. You're paying for my late fees on my credit cards. You're paying for my it's buzzing again.
Just like push it around.
Push that, or push yours, or mine.
The whole base, I don't know.
Yeah, you're paying for late fees. You're paying for the time I have to wait. And you know what? My rent, they're not going to let me be late. They're going to pay. They're going to make me pay those late fees. My bills, they charge on late fees. Everyone should charge on those late fees, and I put that in my invoice. I say, I put in there, I put in little stipulations about anything beyond net 30. I make sure that it says you are incurring this much interest, and this is in basically that whole thing. I even, in deal memos, I will make sure that I'll be like, this is going to be in my deal memo. Mind you, I've rubbed some people raw doing that, but I usually find that if I've rubbed somebody raw, the people I would have rubbed raw are the people I probably didn't want to work with. And the people that are like, yeah, we totally get it. And I'm like, there. You'll find most deal memos, though, will have something that kind of reads to that and says, we promise to pay you within this time frame. And then that way, when you send that invoice in and you say, per our agreement, per our deal memo, I would like to, see this, and this is what I'm charging. Yeah.
How do you usually go about deposits on bigger stuff like this? Like if you're doing a $100,000 commercial, what do you? Is it once product's delivered? Do you do? I don't know. What's your usual breakdown?
So that's one of those things that it is kind of a case by case. I look at it and
that's kind of how it's always
if
been
you're
for me.
dealing-
I try to do, a deposit or 50 up front or something.
I mean,
but
50 up front's pretty standard because you have operation cost. If you have your budget down, you know that there's a certain aspect that you're going to have to spend immediately because, your rental houses, yes, they will defer till you're done. Great. Some will even defer 30 days. Great. Yeah. But not all of them. And you have to know who you're dealing with and what room you have to work with because during that time, you still have to make everything. It makes sense that they're not getting the entire project. They're not getting the entire project the day you're done. That makes total sense. But you also have to negotiate the ideas of how do I negotiate then with my vendors that I deal with. Like I'm more of the mindset that I put the people I work with over my vendors. So I tell my vendors, I'm like, I'm coming to you because I come to you often and you're always going to get the payment. You're always going to get the work. You're always going to get the stuff.
In that case,
I like to put my people.
I'm very kind of not as strict. It's a hard word maybe, but I try to stay on the 80% deposit. Mm-hmm. That's allows really me to pay everyone
the day
when everything is
that's
wrapping up. Otherwise, I will make people wait 15. I will go to the standard. That's why I try to keep an 80% deposit strict no matter what.
I honestly 80% is good, and the great thing about 80% and what I do is I'm really transparent about when talking to clients. I say, look, for instance, we stick to that 80%, and we've talked about it. And I said, you really want what we have right now is you like what you see on the website. If you like what you see on the website, that's the same group of people I'm bringing you. I'm bringing you all the same stuff that you're seeing right now. I'm bringing it and we're putting it towards your project.
Yeah. That's why I love doing BTS stuff because that shows people how many people is involved in a 30 seconds video, I think behind the project stuff, photos or videos, it's so important so people can actually see where the money goes.
Exactly.
Otherwise,
I'm horrible at that stuff. I'm horrible at posting.
Yeah, no,
I get a lot of people.
I'm trying to practice more of that just because of that fact.
My New Year's resolution is to do that.
I can put 30 seconds, 60 seconds video together of our last project and say,
with
this
new
is
AI,
what you're getting. Yeah. This is where your money is going.
With new AI, you could do that easy now. Honestly, new AI, you can sit down and make a 30-second, just quick pop video and throw it in with all the images. Let's say there's stills. Let's say there's video. You can do that a lot easier. And that's the thing is I'm trying to make that. I think that's one of the strongest things you've done that I've watched Stll Studios do is, and I've said this before, I've said this to your face, you are an Instagram whore. You will go through and you will put up, he'll post the same thing over and over again at times, like a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later, and then you're like, wow. But at the same time, if you look at the moment he started to now, the growth he's had is all about because people expect to see it. It's almost like, when you watch broadcast television and
your show's on at 6 p.m.,
And it's also, what commercials come on at what time because it's prime time or whatever. Now that's how social media works. People are like, that's my buddy. He's got a production company. And you know what? Because of that, they see something cool and somebody comments and then somebody else just happens to see it. It comes all across their feed because of the algorithm. Yeah. Because we've got all these algorithms that are trying to get things to people.
And you're forced to tag, not forced, but you tag people. And this is people that, it's proud of what they did on that day. It can be talents, can be crew. Yep. They're proud of that experience, so they share it.
Yeah.
The ball keeps rolling and rolling.
What's crazy is I keep saying even this last project, I wanted to do that so bad. I wanted to be all over that. In fact, I even hired a guy to do it and he wasn't that great at doing it. I kept telling him I need so many a day. I even put in, I said we need so many a day and he was like, yeah, and he kind of did it. And I was like, but you need someone. That's a new position that honestly, even your BTS person, if you're BTS person, if you can hand over something that says, you need to make me these posts and you need to do that. In fact, if you get somebody that's a Like if you ever get a permanent person that comes in, or like a permanent,
internships. There's so many
yeah.
people that wants to learn
people
video,
want to learn
pictures,
and be on set, you know, and
photography. You can just kind of
It's true.
bring them on set and just, you're gonna meet people. You're gonna get the experience.
I don't even look at my Instagram that much to post things. I just, when I do, I make it a point. That's another thing. I do make it a point. One thing is to go to different pages and look at what they do, comment, like what they have. That's the least interaction that you can do.
You comment on my picture at least once.
Sometimes I
every
comment
month.
asinine things just to like I think the last time I go, but does it even do that?
Yeah.
And, it's like, and you're like, yes, it does. And I'm like, that's amazing. And I'll just do that because that interaction helps, and it does help me too. Like anytime you make comments, it helps you. But that's the funny thing about producing is you're not just sitting here trying to make one project happen. You're making several projects happen. And especially when you are producing commercials, and you've got a company that is producing commercials, you are constantly a machine, constantly trying to churn out, because if you don't, then no one's going to know you're there. No one's going to know to come to you. And that's one of those things that I am finding is more in my realm of the narrative stuff, is that people want to see and they want to know, they want interaction, they want to be like, wow, that's cool, and they want to be able to go, they want to have that FOMO moment where they go, I wish I could have been on that. Well, you should have called me, and you should have this and that. And you want that, because you get your reputation out there, you get the stuff you do. I have made it New Year's resolution. You saw we started, I posted, but I'm trying to do it at least twice a week. That's how bad I am, that twice a week is a lot for me. And that's really bad that twice a week is a lot for me. Yeah. It's really sad. But honestly, if I could even have half the energy you have as far as putting, I don't even know. Are you doing it when you're on the toilet or something? Like you're of course. It's like honestly, that's the thing. Is I sit here and
that's
I'm
where everyone's.
Yeah, no, I think I think you have to the process, because I really enjoy picking the pictures and I'm putting them together, choosing the whatever I want to show, but I enjoy the process. It's kind of it's like editing a picture. It's like I'm putting things together for me to post and put out there. You know what I mean?
My prediction is 2024. Companies like TikTok, Instagram, all the social medias are going to start integrating AI, a lot more AI filtering, and a lot more AI assisting and posting. That you're going to make it to where it's going to make it to where, God, you're going to probably be posting every hour for all I know. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think, it's not for everyone, right? I mean, I'm trying to run a business, and I want that business to Instagram is not a place where I find clients at all.
No,
it's not a source for me to that I have to post. If I post, I get a client. No, that's.
But the little known thing is everybody that ever comes to you, they research.
Yeah.
And they go to your Instagram. You don't know it, but they will go after they've already decided to talk to you. They will go to your Instagram because they want to be like.
But I think it's more for the people. Mm-hmm. Mainly just I like to tag people, I like to mention people, I like to shout out people, and the people that you work with, it's in social media, cinematographers, they have to show what their work is, their in quality and whatnot, what camera they're using and whatnot.
And so, that kind of working, what you've done really well that I've seen is you build a reputation with the payment. You build a reputation with showing off the work that people have automatically flocked to wanting to work with you. New people, whenever you've held events, like new people will show because they find out they're like, well, I can get involved. Obviously, it's that FOMO. They want to be in. And new people that are shooting that are like, he's doing a great job. He's got all this stuff going on. That's great. The next level of that is really just, honestly, it's just to keep going and keep doing that because,
just being consistent.
Yeah. You get 1 year, you get a DP who has maybe, some experience with certain things. Next year, you get a DP who's got a lot more experience. Eventually, you're working with some guy who's like, known across the country because he just happened to know a guy that knew a guy or know someone that knows someone.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, he's like, I'll work with this guy. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my main inspiration is trying to, have a space in the community, right? This is a production company that I'm trying to build, and the community it's made of people,
The community is global now.
Yeah. So, and the experience has been great. I mean, it's been hardly a year and a half, almost 2 years that the studio has been running, and I've been lucky to be working with, a bunch of really cool people around.
I'm curious.
You guys included.
Well, thanks, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
Good
So Lester, I'm curious, as you've kind of made these transitions and career steps from when we met back in 2019 or whenever that was, working together at that company to then starting your own thing. That kind of those stepping stones that I think a lot of people are kind of trying to make for themselves, of going from freelancer in New York to working as part of another company to starting your own company. I'm curious how your mindset has kind of shifted or had to shift, or anything that you've kind of run up against in that process, or if it's been like very fluid for you, or if it's been a kind of like
Not fluid at all.
yeah.
You know what's funny?
It's never fluid, right?
Yeah, no, I think the way I started, it was with the freelance mindset. I can do it all.
Right.
I
Just a
can
yes
I can
man.
shoot this,
Yeah,
I
I
can
can do
edit
that.
it, I can take pictures and then video and then both things together. I mean, but I think that made me understand how things work. Like if a client hires me for photography only, I know I can deal with that.
Yeah.
Right.
If a client hires me for video, I know I can. So I think it's a plus to know how things work.
Like on the most basic
On the
hands-on.
on the most how to quote yourself, and that probably is one of the most important things that you don't get even out of film school.
Yeah.
They don't
No.
teach you how to quote yourself, how to price
they don't.
yourself,
No, not at all.
and it's just something that you learn
They
by.
don't even teach how to put a C stand up properly. So, I mean, honestly, like,
Yeah, but I never went to film school at all. I just grabbed the
Yeah,
camera,
just
start
started doing
shooting. Yeah, and I just
That almost seems.
I
like
just
how-
went with the flow.
Yeah.
I get a lot of people who ask me, they go, should I go to school for this? Should I've had parents come to me and go, should my son, daughter go to school for this? And I was like, well, is your kid a self-starter? And it's like, yes, no. It's kind of like, do they thrive in this kind of environment? And, honestly, school, people who make it through school, and, there are people that make it through school and they could make it even if they didn't go. There are people that probably could only make it if they went to school because there was someone that told them that there's a deadline, and that kind of got them, that forged some sense of responsibility. It's all really a matter of your own idea of maturity, whether you need to go to school for this. You really don't necessarily need to go to school for this, especially nowadays. You were talking about that all the work you're doing, and you've got YouTube open to the side as you're doing it. Honestly, we're in such a great information age right now, and I'm sounding like the old guy. Back in my day, we didn't have the internet. The idea of being able to just get something done, you want to do it, there's nothing stopping you. Kids, I tell my kids all the time, they're like, well, I want to do this. I'm like, there's nothing stopping you. You have the internet.
Yeah.
You have YouTube.
Go to YouTube. There's 100 videos for it.
Oh, God, yeah.
Watch a couple and then do it.
And it's it's if you are driven enough, you will make it happen.
I think that's
That's the
a good point. Like being driven, focused on what you want. Because obviously I've never had the clear path that I wanted to go. I didn't have.
I don't think there is a clear path in this.
Yeah,
no,
right.
no.
It's like, in 5 years I'm gonna have my own production company. And
Even if
never,
you have a clear path, like you end up halfway through, like myself, going, "Oh, I never wanted to produce, but now I'm producing."
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Yeah,
there's
but-
no such thing as a clear path.
Yeah, but I think it's just. I think you mentioned it before. I think it's just improving yourself, professionally, and I guess it depends if what you want is just being part of projects from other companies, or if you want to take the lead and start your own stuff and start putting people together. That was a big mindset of mine, because I was so used to being just director or just the DP.
Yeah.
But I never had the opportunity to be more of that.
Put it out this
producer
way.
or
Put it
yeah.
this way, there are idiots out there making a ton of money doing jobs that we want to do. They're absolute idiots. Back to the Georgia thing. Remember I said that there's a lot of people that are unexperienced. There's a story about a guy that they hired him to I thought it was close enough. I'm loud. But there's a guy in Georgia that they hired him to basically to fly Condor, basically in one of those big, what that means, be in a lift for the day. Because, they've got the light built on the lift, and the light has to come down like moonlight, right, on the lift. But somebody's got to stay up there. So they hired him to do that, and he went ahead and parked his car by the lift so that he could just come down when he's ready to come down and get in his car and leave when he needs to leave. He comes down, right, and like it's the end of the day, and they had a 12 to 15 hour day, right? 12-hour day, not a big deal. 15-hour day, but he's flying Condor middle of the night. He's there all night. He has to piss in a bucket, piss in a little jar to send it down, stuff like that. Like that happens a lot.
I never thought about that.
No, that happens. That happens a lot because in the middle of shots, you can't. What are you going to do?
Go down,
They can't sit there and go, "Hey, I need to pee again." What are you going to do? Here's the thing. Here's the crazy thing. When he came down, he was driving out, and one of the guys came up to talk to him or something, and realized there's a kid in the back of the fucking car. I'm not kidding.
Oh shit.
This dumbass had his kid in the fucking car, and he was like, his kid was just sitting there playing games. He was just sitting there doing whatever, and I'm like, are you kidding me? That's number one, that's abuse. But there are stupid people out there doing this, making money. So if you want to be in the commercial world, you want to be in the film world, do it. There's nothing stopping you. Because there are dumbasses out there leave the children in cars and do this kind of stuff. There are smart people, there are stupid people. They're all over. And they're doing work, and they're getting paid really well to do this work. You just have to be the type of person that says, I'm going to get up out of bed. I'm going to actually get this done. And, I've met stupid producers. Hell, I'm one of them. I'm a stupid producer sometimes. I mean, I've made a lot of mistakes. I'm not saying I'm a bad anything. I'm not a guy who has been thinking about producing since day one. And I was just, by necessity, had to produce. And I've taken all the mistakes I've made. And I could, like I said, I could write a book. But you both, and all of you guys are exactly what I'm talking about. It's the drive, it's the will to do something, to figure it out along the way. Because that's majority of what anybody's doing in life. Yeah. Life doesn't hand you any kind of manual.
Yeah, and I think there are certain, because for example, what you live in right now in this couple of years that we've been working together, and what's going to happen in 2024 might be preparing you for what you're going to do in 2025
right,
or 2026. So
directing porn.
Exactly.
That's the goal.
Don't know how
you know what I mean?
It's all going to be very commercial.
Telling my experience and the last couple of years since I moved to Austin, New York prepared me on the technicality of stuff, how a video production works, how photography production works. That New York prepared me on that end, but moving to Austin and being part of a team and start working on bigger stuff and with bigger teams and whatnot, that experience prepared me for the role that I'm
currently in,
that I'm currently in. And it's just matter to grab all the information that you can and have a circle of people, the people that you can learn from. That was my main takeout from the last business that we had.
That's a tough thing with producing, though. Like, have you noticed that, like, you can have a circle of some producers, but there's the producing end of things because we're not in LA, we're not in New York, we're not in Atlanta or anything. We are in areas like there's production all over. In every state, there's some kind of production of commercials or whatever.
Right.
But having producers around, and like you have abundance of directors and writers and DPs and G&E and all that stuff all over. Having a bunch of producers around doesn't always happen because producers kind of end up working almost solitary or within this tight-knit group.
Yeah,
and
that's fair.
If you're only hearing an echo chamber of just a few other people, that's tough. So there is a lot of things that, I see this is why there's a lot of producers that aren't doing great out there, because they're doing something that's worked for them before doesn't mean it's correct. It's the right way to do it. But that's one of those things. I think you've hit the head on the nail with that. I think you really have. And it's you got to just be very careful about who you pick too, because there are some things you learn. You'll end up learning one day to put a C-stand backwards, and next thing you know, you've got something hanging over somebody's head and it falls.
That's a scary dude.
That's very scary. Yeah.
I think that goes back to kind of the community aspect. Like you talked about that before, of that it's such a tight knit community of, you get on set and you're like, oh, I know half the people here. It's amazing how much just soft skills are so important in this business.
Yeah.
It's like, I know a lot of people that, may not be as skilled as someone, but they're just so great with people and everyone loves them that they're making leaps ahead of other people that are maybe technically perfect,
And that's
but that are awkward and they can't talk to anyone. And it's like,
you team up with that person. You team up with that person. That's what you do. You team up with them, and then you basically go, okay, because I have that, my producing team. I'm not the greatest of people to, like, my soft skills as far as that kind of stuff is sometimes I speak my mind to a point where it offends a lot of people. I have, in my producing team, I have a guy named L. Ron Ophir. Shout out to L. Ron Ophir. He's one of these guys that he does know quite a bit. Like, he knows quite a bit. But what's great about him is he is, like, I don't know what it is. He walks into a room and everybody gets along with him. He walks in the room and everybody wants to talk to him.
So important.
And I just, I don't have that kind of charisma. I just don't. I have some charisma, some when it comes to some things. But L. Ron can take a room and diffuse it. I know another producer I worked with who's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But on this last production, I had crew calling me saying they don't want to deal with him because he's very curt, he's very short. But he, like, does the math in his head, and he puts everything together in his head, and he's got it all built. And he's brilliant, but he's not great with people. Mm-hmm. We all have our skills, and that's why we build the team that we do. Because sometimes, a director will look at a DP and say, I don't care if my DP knows how to talk to anybody. I don't care if my DP can do anything. But if he shoots, and I love his shooting, you'll go with it. Yeah. You go with, you figure it out because, there's so many different personality traits. Yeah, it's totally.
Just
insane.
I think as a producer myself, I prefer, I choose talent and personality over higher skills.
What did you do with me? What the heck? I must be really talented.
I prefer to have someone that can be flexible. Mm-hmm. I prefer to have someone on set that can be, responsive. That I know I can trust. I can leave the room and he's gonna do his job and go. Yeah.
He or she.
Yeah. No, 100%.
I try to be, because honestly, that's the one thing is we are in a male-dominated industry, and that's the tough part. Is I have seen one thing that you've done really well, is you are very big about making sure that you are like, look, I don't want to. That's the one thing that you are incredible at. You give equal talent, you give equal experience to, you're trying to spread that out, and you're trying to actually be proactive about that too. And that was very smart of you. That's very smart, because it's helped you out a lot. It has.
Yeah, thank you, man. I have a daughter.
Yeah,
so
I know.
Every time an opportunity comes where I just imagine my Tessa being at that age and looking for a gig. So,
aren't you going to turn to her and tell her, don't do production?
Don't go and film.
No.
Don't work.
No, I think a lot of things change once you have kids. You have 4. So, that was one of the things that since I have my daughter, I try to bring opportunities to female artists to, actually we're starting a new podcast called the Coffee Break Podcast, and it's just woman empowerment. We're going to have like a female host interviewing, women in the industry. So yeah, I support that a lot. And it's mostly because I have a daughter now.
that is one of those things I really wish women in
karma,
film. I
Yeah.
wish women in film had a bigger office here in Austin, and I don't understand why they don't. Women in film has they have a pretty big group in Dallas, and I think they're starting to grow here. But that's something that I really would like to see because my wife is also a producer. She's more the brains, I'm more the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, no, I think it's important, man. And I think, as the community grows, I feel there's work for everyone, and it feels great to be in a position where you can, shout out someone. And if that mention or that tag or whatever it is helps them to grow, I mean, what else?
Yeah, definitely.
What better reward than that,
Yeah. No, I get you. And honestly, it's like the old, what's that campground saying? Leave it better than you found it. Right?
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Vincent,
What's your name again?
yeah. I'm going to mess your name up. You messed my name up.
It's like Torres.
Yeah. Tell me about, so you've been doing this, how long you've been doing this, and did you always want a DP? And is DP the end goal for you? Like if you're on your deathbed in years and years, hopefully when you're 100-something years old.
I think you have to mention. So I don't think Brandon knows that you were a musician first, like a touring musician.
I'd heard that. I'd heard some rumors about that. Yeah, I heard a few rumors.
Yeah.
I wasn't very successful, so it's not a lot to mention. But
It's kind of like being football. No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, I did the music thing for quite a while, and when I first moved to Austin, I was doing that pretty much full time for
Where do you move from?
I grew up in Colorado.
Oh, man.
Where in Colorado?
Boulder, more or less. Just
I love Boulder.
A little bit outside
Why are
of Boulder.
you here?
Yeah, I know. Everyone gives
honestly,
me shit for that.
I
but
love Colorado. I love Boulder especially.
I could live in
That's
Colorado.
that's one of the spots I'm actually considering going. I'm considering Boulder, Colorado. But
yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry, I love Colorado.
No, that's good. Yeah, and then one of the bands I was in, the lead singer was a killer photographer, and I had shot like a little bit in college. I had kind of a point and shoot camera, and shot a little bit, and then lost that camera, and I was kind of like, I'm not that into it, whatever. But the lead singer for that band, his name is Brandon Aguilar. He's a great still photographer and a great DP too.
How do I know that name, Brandon Aguilar?
He's a DP. And
does he work here?
He's in Austin. He does a lot of work in with another good buddy, Cameron Gott.
Yeah.
He's in Dallas. Well, a little out, more or less in Dallas.
Yeah.
But great dudes. They work together all the time.
Yeah.
It was basically Brandon that got me into photography, and he had an extra camera laying around and was just like, hey, dude, if you want to, learn this stuff, like let's walk around, and we tried aperture, and I was like, wow, it gets blurry in the back, and that kind of stuff. I was just like, wow, this is cool. And I bought a Canon T3i, like a month later on Craigslist. And
that was my first camera too.
Yeah, dude.
I stole it from my sister.
Yeah.
It's the go-to.
It's the go-to.
And
I sometimes miss that camera.
Dude,
even
they're
now,
great.
I feel like the pictures, I would just take them, fucking look at them in Lightroom and not
You're
even
just
touch
like, yeah,
anything.
I don't need to
I'm
do
like,
anything.
Perfect.
Like,
What am
cool.
I doing?
Well, yeah, I don't need to touch this.
It's good.
Yeah, it's great. But yeah, kind of just went down the rabbit hole. I was always interested in video. And so that kind of always pulled me a little bit, but I still love stills, but it's more of a for fun thing now.
Yeah. I get that.
But yeah, stills is hard. But yeah, the DP side of things, it's definitely grown more, in the last probably 3 or 4 years, where it's just been like, just wanting to do more commercial work, and I started shooting like the typical like music videos and like behind the scenes, because I was in the music community, so I had a lot of friends that were still playing and needed like music videos, and I'll look at them now and they're all shit,
Yeah. But still, you're still connected with a lot of those music connections, right?
But yeah, still do a little bit of music stuff here and there. And then, just been doing the commercial thing for a while now. Drone stuff has been a big part for me too. I bought my first drone probably like 4 years ago, and kind of same thing, gone down the rabbit hole. So for me, it's probably 50-50 for overall work, but both are great. The thing that I love about drones is, you can get different shots that you could never get with any other camera system, especially FPV drones. It's the smaller ones that can get anywhere, and you can be a little bit more acrobatic and stuff. And that's great, but I still love cinematography because it's telling a story. You can't tell a story with a drone, and I want to interview people and tell stories, and I want to light a scene,
and
it's
could
like,
tell a story with the drone. It was all just drone stuff, but it
That's
was
fair.
a little.
It's
awkward.
harder though.
It was really hard, and I don't think you could replicate it again. It was like all in a city, over cities, and seeing people laying out, but also watching people in their. It was weird because they'd set it up to where they went to different windows and they moved around, but it was like it kind of told a story a little bit in that aspect of the city and the people that were there. But it felt really weird.
Yeah.
And at first, it's
I
like,
think-
did you just
I
look
think,
at people's windows?
I think drone is like more like a complement. I don't know how to call it.
It's like seasoning.
Complement
It's
to
complementary.
whatever project
Totally,
you're involved with, and it's a great asset to have because
For sure.
suddenly you're learning about the story, and suddenly they show you. An aerial shot or an FPV angle that you don't see every day. It's like,
Like,
wow.
how the hell
Sometimes
do they do that?
people-
It's kind of like the camera moves that we were talking about.
Yeah.
It's like
Sometimes people though do lean on it too much. That's the
Totally,
one
yeah.
thing. And because when-
opening, establishing shot, drone
God.
push forward,
Exactly.
and then cut to the interview. And it's like,
Exactly,
it's
and
been
there's
done.
a
Yeah,
lot of
but
that
that's
that
what
you fight from.
that's why I love FPV drone a lot, just
Yeah.
because it can
It's
give you a perspective that you don't see
Totally, yeah.
every day.
So I direct.
Overusing it, obviously, it's bad, but
a couple shots,
a couple shots
a
is a-
spot.
Yeah.
Wow.
It really ramps up the
This
production
last,
value.
I direct the red carpets at the
South
South by
by
Southwest.
Southwest.
Yeah, and we had a separate team, and I'm not really directing them, but I'm hoping that this year I get to actually direct them. But they did this thing where they went into the Paramount from the outside. I was pulling back because I was about to get loud. But they went in from outside, went through the doors, go in and into the theater, and they actually kind of went in around the theater, looked back at the seats and everything, and then went up to the balcony and looked back at the screen.
There is I don't know if it was an Oscar event, but the video is called The Fly. You can look it up on YouTube or
The
Vimeo.
flight?
The Fly.
The
Like
fly. Oh.
The Fly, and it's a one-shot video with the drone. And
Is this the one? Not the one in the bowling alley, right? That one was famous. You see that one?
Yeah, that was Jaybird. Yeah.
Oh, love that one. God, I love
No,
So
that.
you're
it
talking
was-
about at the Oscars?
It was an event.
Some kind
it
of
can
red
be,
carpet
Yeah,
type thing,
red
yeah.
carpet thing. It can be Oscars, Glove. I don't know.
Were there people? What did it look like?
But everyone
Fancy.
the drone was flying close to the people, and people was, even a conversation, and then
Oh,
kind of reacting to
yeah.
the drone, and they were like kind of,
Yeah.
like whenever you see a fly, you do this. So the
Man,
fly was
I'd
going.
be upset and worried somebody hits the drone.
the damn drone was going all over the place, and people was kind of, probably they knew about it, but they were like kind of doing something.
Well, that's the thing with the those one take shots that you always see. It's like you can only plan so much.
Yeah.
You have everything choreographed and everything's mapped out. But especially if you're doing like a big, not even a big set, but you're out in public or doing something where it's just like there's so many variables that you just can't be ready for. So yeah, in all of those videos, you'll see some. Every once in a while, you'll see someone be like, "What the hell was that?" It's like that's because they're just a regular person.
'Cause you hear
and
this-
they hear the
You hear the zzz above your head. You're like, "What the heck is that?" You
Yeah,
feel this
exactly.
kind of soft wind on you. You're like, "Ugh, what is happening?" But
Suddenly
And as a pilot, it's just like, don't look.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. It's like, it happens every time. But
when you were talking to a client and they often come to you with saying, "Hey, we want to use this drone because drones are cool," and they want to do something for the sake of just doing it because it's cool, how do you mitigate stupid requests? Let's say that. Just stupid requests because they don't know better. Maybe a client doesn't know better, or maybe a producer comes to you, doesn't want something ridiculous. It's not going to work. That's not something you're going to put on your reel. but you also know that in your end product, it won't serve.
I think a lot of it is A, managing expectations, and B, just educating them. I think there's so many clients that come to you with maybe this crazy idea, but they don't understand that it's not possible based on budget, or just like physically not possible. Like, one thing that we've gotten a lot for FPV is like those one take shots, and they're never one take. It's always one thing with FPV that's frustrating for me as a pilot is the reception on those things is super small. It's not like the bigger drones that can fly miles.
Yeah.
It's like, you fly, I'll do practice stuff, and
the batteries.
Yeah, battery, that's one big thing. It's like usually they're lasting 3 to 5 minutes, where like our big guy, like the Inspire 3, will be up for like 20 to 30 minutes, and then the smaller Mavic, those will go like 45. Those one shots, it's like those are 5 shots strung together and edited in After Effects, because they fly through a doorway, and then they keyframe that to be the previous shot, and so they repeat it. But as a client, you have no idea that's what it's done. It's like, oh, well, now the budget has to reflect that, because that's editing, that's more time, that's more prep.
Yeah.
So how much it's a little bit of showing them how the sausage is made then.
Exactly.
And if that's the case, you're showing them how the sausage is made, but do you want to reveal everything about how the sausage is made, or do you kind of leave a little bit back because they have to realize there's some mystery to it? I don't know. That's a really interesting way of going about it, though.
Yeah.
I guess in general, I try to be as transparent as I can. I think that, over time just builds trust.
No.
And you gotta watch your margins too. But at the end of the day, it's like you want to work with them most likely again. Maybe not, it kind of just depends. But just educating them on how this works, or why this will work, or why it won't work, I think is just super important.
Yeah.
Nice.
So as let's say a director, and I want to put together a creative concept for a car, let's say, how much prep should I consider if I want to bring an FPV drone pilot for specific shots, like I don't know, some slow motions of doing some action shots with the car, having a driver in Marfa, Texas, or whatever, and just how much entails to bring an FPV drone on set?
FPV is definitely more intensive than the Inspires, or like even the smaller Mavics. I would say, like, very rarely will we have an issue flying those types of drones. It's like, if there is an issue, it's an airspace issue, and that should be cleared, weeks before you shoot. We've done a lot of work like out by the airport, and if we find out about the shoot, 3 or 4 days in advance, or, prior, it might not happen, because we might not be able to get that clearance to fly in like the B airspace. And so the earlier that we can be informed about the location and the time frame, we can submit all that paperwork to get it cleared, so that you're not, on set, all of a sudden, cops show up, or you get your license pulled, or you get fined, or the production gets fined.
That's a good call. Yeah. Good point.
FPV is, well, going back to like the Inspire stuff, it's like, for me, whenever the day before we're on a job, I always, if possible and it's local, I always try to go there, take off, just double check, interference, and make sure all that stuff's good, and signal's good.
Location scout is important
for
it's
sure.
Part of it, yeah.
And that's also checking, like, where are the roads, where the power line, all that stuff.
Planning.
Yeah, because it's never fun. It's the same thing showing up on set. You show up. I remember you talking about that shoot you guys had in New York. It was like the 80th floor or whatever. Yeah. And so you get there and it's super small, and it's your whole day is like, oh God, how are we gonna make this work? Yeah.
Yeah, that was me stressing about. That was me producing, stressing about that, going, what the hell? But it's gorgeous. I mean, it's gorgeous. Yeah.
So, like, for example, I remember the shot that we did for Sarah Wilson, the video that we did for Sarah Wilson. You were there as well.
Yeah.
How much preparation took you to get the shots that we captured? I love the shots. I mean, the shots following the car and whatnot, but that was downtown,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it wasn't. Well, it was on the east side or whatever, so it wasn't right downtown. But yeah, I mean, I went 2 days beforehand and put the drone up and tried to scout and see where the best angles are. And we wanted her driving in her pickup truck, so that you want some foliage and you want it to look good, but you also don't want to cover it so you can see where she's at. You know, so it's just scouting. It's the same thing as a DP.
Yeah, and now another type of shot like FPV specifically. I know I told you we shot the Chasing Portraits episode with the athlete
throwback.
Yeah. How much preparation was that one? Because the shots are incredible.
Yeah.
I try to use those shots on every reel that I put together. Even if I think I'm gonna be using it 10 years from now because the shots are amazing, dude.
That's awesome.
But how much preparation it took you plan? That kind of
for that particular location or for the shoot, I guess.
For I guess both.
I mean, I'd never been in that location, and I knew that we were just going to be on that track. So I didn't scout that.
And it was pretty open, right?
It was open. I looked it up on Google and kind of just looked at the area, and I was like, it looks clear. It's a track. It shouldn't be too crazy.
But what about permits? Like
that one,
you didn't have
it
to
was
research too much.
That one was clear just because of where we were at and like the airspace and everything.
Yeah.
We didn't have to worry about that. And then as far as gear prep, it's the same thing as we all do for DP and for stills, and producing. It's you get everything together and you make sure everything's charged and ready to go. And does everything turn on? Does it connect? It's like the usual.
Yeah, I think those if we had planned those shots, probably we wouldn't get something different. But I think part of the magic that happened that day, it was almost improvised, right? We didn't have a storyboard, we didn't have a shot list, so it was like Vinnie put that thing in the air and just give me.
Yeah, and that's one thing.
Also, I think you have flown enough though that you kind of had some plans and some things that you had ideas that you were wanting to do.
Yeah,
right?
for sure, and it's always good to have references too. So it's like I did check out like a couple other athletic. I was looking at soccer videos on Instagram that were FPV and athletic videos. So it's like you get a couple shots maybe in your head of how what you could do to.
Yeah. I find that good shots are always someone has planned something.
Yeah, there's something there usually.
Yeah, that's true. Because I had a specific shots in mind. Like for example, the shot that you got passing through the
going through the.
How do you call those things? I don't remember.
I was gonna say pylons, but that's not right.
Bleachers?
No,
the field goal?
The things you jump with.
The hurdles.
Hurdles. There we go.
Yeah. So that was on the spot. That was kind of decided. Hey, let's put them like in a row and see if you can go through them. And that was probably
well. That's why you paid for experience.
Yeah,
that's why. It goes back to that idea. Like it's not. He didn't have that like within the first week and going. Oh, I'm just now flying now.
Yeah.
It's experience. He's flown 100%. It. He's probably dinged up a few rotors.
Oh yeah, these things.
So
all the time.
Yeah. So. I mean, that's the one thing is experience is planning itself. I mean, that's
100%.
That's what I love about it is that is planning. And now, mind you, it doesn't take place of prep and things like that you do for a set, but experience does speak to that. And
yeah, definitely.
Someone can tell you, can shut you down and go, like for me, I would be like, oh, I want to run around and I want to like to follow him and be on his face. And then I want it to go down and like real low and watch his feet. And then I want it to come up.
Exactly.
And honestly, somebody who's flying that be like, all right, let's break these up into different shots and figure out a way to make them all look like they blend together. But
and that's another thing, you can have everything boarded out and you can have everything set and everything planned, but it's like, as we all know, things change when you're on set, and people have an idea that say, hey, instead of this, what happens if we try this? And that's where just kind of like preparation and just practice comes in, because they're like, instead of going down this and turning right, why don't you turn left? And it's like, oh, well, I'm not, I'm not good at left turns. And they're like, well, you should.
What are you be later now?
Yeah, what are you doing? You should be practicing more.
What would you suggest? What would you suggest for? Let me tell you this story. So we had a shoot. It was close to where I don't remember remember the day that Jake lost his drone.
Oh,
Oh,
it
yeah.
was close to him losing his drone.
Yeah,
and he was
so-
very scared.
Yeah, so he lost his drone.
Oh,
He
no.
was trying to get a shot of a boat. We had 3 people on a boat, and they were gonna just go back and forth. And the idea was to just kind of have an aerial shot of that.
Yeah.
And something happened. A bird smashed his drone and
no.
fell in the water. So
R.I.P. Bird.
That's where you go back to what I said. You don't know what you don't know. It's
Yeah.
the black swan, or as you know,
Yeah.
it's the bird
But-
that comes in and kills your
yeah,
drone.
but let's say you're in a high production setting. Those shots are in the shot list. Like,
Yeah.
do you have any? Do you prepare for something like that?
Do you have a backup?
Yeah, like
I was just gonna say the first rule in drones is if you have 1, you have 0,
Yeah.
because it's just like shit happens, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Murphy's Law.
Anytime we're doing FPV stuff, I have at least like 5. You know,
5 drones.
yeah, and they're all exact replicas. They're all ready to go. So it's like if something happens, that drone comes down. The other one is like literally ready to go. You just put a battery on it and start it.
Holy
Yeah.
moly, wow.
And then while I'm doing the next take, my tech will be like, fixing whatever the thing is. So he shout out to Scott Chrysler. He's a great drone tech and great pilot. He's the man. But yeah, he'll be soldering on set while I'm getting the next shot.
Oh, yeah.
And
Having
or
a
swatching
drone
out
tech
props
is
or
amazing.
swapping out cameras or cards or batteries or like whatever it is.
Yeah.
But that's again going back to hiring good people
Yeah.
that you
exactly.
can trust and that know their shit, But yeah, it's drones. You got to have copies.
Yeah.
And it's
Or you get hit by a bird and
yeah,
you're like, well, I guess we don't have that
shit-
footage.
No more
Shit
drones.
happens.
Yeah, I guess we don't get
and,
aerial.
Yeah.
especially with like the big guys. If we're hired for a commercial and it's like a big car commercial,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you're flying our Inspire and that goes down, it's like now what?
Yeah,
You
it's a
know?
big
So
car
it's like,
commercial.
then
They
you,
need
then
the-
you get a
yeah.
you get a second and
Yeah.
you like bring the second or at least like a Mavic or something.
But that's the whole reason you have the COI.
yeah,
Because, I mean, if something happens, if a bird comes in and hits something and like you suddenly that thing is broken, it goes down, it goes in the water, you cannot retrieve it.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason a COI exists.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, I have personally tried to fly those things, and they're not hard to fly. But when you're trying to execute something very specific, like that's where it gets difficult, and that's some talent. That's some talent that comes into it. It isn't just, and it isn't a matter of just talent.
I
That you have to
remember-
know the tech too, and how to
Yeah.
anticipate the problems.
Yeah,
I remember Vinnie kind of laying back on a tree with the. 'cause
Oh,
he
yeah.
was using the goggles.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, did you see the bird? Did you see the bird just like hit?
No.
No,
Vinnie,
yeah,
Vinnie
yeah,
flying
yeah.
the FPV drone.
I was hoping you were going to talk about the time that Jake lost
Jake
his,
got it,
and you
no.
had the FPV, and the
Oh, no.
bird just
We
comes.
saw it.
Yeah,
We saw it just falling. And
I want to
he
know
was
what that
lost.
footage looks like with the bird coming
Yeah.
and hitting.
Yeah, that'd be.
That
Yeah.
bird was attacking it. It was just
Yeah,
like,
but it was
I don't
funny
like
to
it.
see Vinnie just laying back in the tree, just because you were wearing the
you have
goggles.
the goggles for FPV.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
things are crazy disorienting.
Oh, yeah.
He did a
Yeah.
firmware update in a hotel room one time, and I was just in the hotel room with the goggles and holding the drone, and just like even just turning the camera a little
He
bit.
was like, "Whoa, this is what you do!" Like, I know, dude, it's crazy. Like the first couple
Yeah.
times you do it, you're like,
Right.
what is happening?"
It's a trip.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It feels like,
okay.
how long does it, do you feel like you have to take a moment to get used to the
I mean,
FPV
at this
kind
point, no. But even now, when I'm flying, I'm always usually leaning or sitting.
Yeah.
Like I always practice just standing, but when it comes down to it, it's like if I'm on set and like it's high stakes and I have to get this shot,
Yeah.
I would rather just position my body so that I can turn that part of the brain off.
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
can just focus
like
on
a
what I
video
need to
game.
do. Yeah, exactly.
video
It's
Have
like-
you ever got dizzy like flying?
Yeah, if you're doing crazy acrobatic stuff, but that's like again, if you lean against a wall or something, all that goes away.
Yeah.
So-
Okay, he's like, okay, we got the shot.
Yeah, it definitely.
The shot was great.
It takes some getting used to, that's for sure. So
Yeah, no kidding. That's
That's
I
awesome.
I worked on a thing where this guy, it was like he was fairly new at it, and he flew it out. It was in Van Horn in West Texas, and they flew out both a drone and a plane, an airplane that had like a whole setup. So it was like he basically went along the mountains, the small little mountains they have there in Van Horn. He's going along it, and all of a sudden he's like, wait, and they're watching this thing and they're doing the FPV, and it's like, oh my God, this is gorgeous. And next thing you know is like, what? It's oh crap, and he's like, it's still flying, but it's flying. Oh, and it disconnected. Next thing you know, he's like, it's off in the mountains over there, and it was right at the border of Mexico and the U.S.
Oh, no.
So he's sitting there, and he's like, I don't think I'm going to get that back. And in fact, he was going to go and look for it, but they were like, no, up that mountain, there's like cougars and everything.
Cougars
you are
and
not going to find that
people.
thing.
Well,
Yeah,
that's the
probably.
other crazy thing with FPV, because it's like the bigger drones, the Inspire 3 and the Mavics, all those have safety features, return to home.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're all connected to satellites. FPV, there's literally nothing.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
you lose signal and it drops out of the air, and it's like, well, we got to go walk around and find it.
That's what this was, and he did have a separate drone that he could look for it, and like he couldn't find it anywhere. I don't know. I'm wondering if drug cartel just sit there and goes, what is this? And they're like, there's somebody
watching
real
us.
nervous now. They're like, we're being watched.
Yeah.
But it was nuts. It was crazy. I can't imagine losing something like that, and just the feeling, the sinking feeling. What's the worst loss you've ever had with one of your drones?
I think the worst loss that I had, it wasn't necessarily a financial loss.
This is where you play the violins. And
Yeah. We did a shoot for an e-foil company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know what those are, but it's like the electric surfboards, basically.
Oh,
So you have a
yeah.
remote, and you can pop up, and it's like you're wakeboarding or surfing. And we did a shoot for them, and we probably shoot for 3 or 4 hours, like going back and forth down on Town Lake, and the whole time shooting on one card, getting all this great stuff, and the light just keeps getting better and better and better, and sunset comes. It's like beautiful sunset. It's the middle of the summer, so everything's or maybe early summer, so everything's green and lush, and it's beautiful. Footage is amazing. I was like, all right, let's do one more, and so I put it up, and there was a malfunction with the battery, and
No.
yep.
Bye footage.
Yeah, bye footage, and so it was a GoPro. It was like a smaller shoot, and so it was on one of the smaller FPV drones. But the GoPro's waterproof, so that footage is still there probably, and it's fine. But I gotta try to find it,
Like
and
somewhere in the ocean.
so for
Just in Town Lake, downtown.
It's in Town Lake.
So for the next
Oh,
2
Town
days,
Lake.
I went out. I
Drive
took my
over
paddleboard, poked
Snorkeling
around with a
down?
stick, and I was like going through a bunch of algae, and I was like,
it's dark
it's
there.
got to be here somewhere.
Oh.
The water was actually really clear, but there was probably maybe a foot or two of algae on the very bottom.
Oh yeah.
So it's like it's super clear, but then it's just green moss.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I was just poking around, like trying to hope to hit something hard, and I never got
Nothing?
it. And
Oh,
so
wow.
it's like, well, the footage is there, but the drone's gone, the footage is gone, and the client's not super pumped. So
Oh, no.
I've learned
that's
that
sad.
every time, if you're on a shoot where there's any kind of risk, it's like after every take you pull the card, you'd
Save it.
So
She
Totally.
got something.
it was a shitty experience, but there's a lesson learned, and
You
it'll
live and
never
you
happen
learn.
again. So
100%.
it sucks.
That's great. That's great though that's the mentality you have of it now. I mean, you could joke about it now.
Yeah, it sucked
But at the
real
time,
bad at the
it had
time.
to suck real bad. But you can joke about it now and be like, "This is what I've learned, and this is why." And
Yeah.
that's experience. Mistakes are. I try to instill that with like my kids, and I'm sure same thing. It's like mistakes are not.
Yeah.
They're not the final destination. They're just-
Technology, dude.
yeah.
Technology fails. That happened to me.
Technology, everything will fail eventually.
That happened to me in a hospital shoot that I did in New York. I was so happy with the footage, but then when something happened, I think we switch cards, but the guy that I had got confused and put the little sticker that you put 001, 002.
Oh.
He put it on the
On
wrong one,
and then you formatted it,
And
and then
I formatted it.
fuck.
so everything was.
Oof.
I wonder if there was a moment where he had the 2 cards and
He
he's
was
like,
left or right.
Yeah.
Pick one. You can't ask about
red
it.
or blue.
Look confident.
Anytime I doubt something, I just go, you know what? We're not formatting anything. We're just looking at everything.
Yeah.
You know,
How about we just put it in the car? It'll take, or back in the camera. It'll
Yeah,
take 20
but
seconds.
take 20 seconds.
You know
that's all.
how it becomes unsaid. It's like you just need
Yeah,
to
you
move
just need to keep
forward.
moving,
and
yeah.
move-
Keeps going fast and-
it's crazy. But
Yeah, that's why.
Shit happens.
That's why sometimes it's best to move slow and steady. And then you can actually get things done. I'm all about nobody should rush. It's like a pool. It's like pool rules. No runs. No running. No running around the pool. You slip, you fall. That's how it happens. So you got to slow down and use your brain and let things
man.
work fast by thinking fast, not moving and running around.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of shit happens. It happens.
Yeah, man. I love this chat. I think it's been really, really
Yeah.
insightful and
Yeah,
so
totally.
many things. Just to wrap it up, do you have someone in mind that you would like to
I got several people in mind. Like
name them?
sound guy, Kyle Graham, DP, Andrew Baird. If you ever get a chance to sit down with Andrew Baird, he's incredible. If you as far as like G&E, grip, key grip, Richard Porter, I would say talk to him. I think I said some names earlier, whatever I'd said earlier. Yeah, talk to them too. Like whatever you can. They have stories. They have all the experience of everything you could possibly imagine. And I think the great thing about this with Frame of Focus is you guys are you're talking about real things, real problems, but you're also talking about how we get past them and how we move in a
What we learn
progressive
from those.
manner. Yeah, what we learned from that, what we learned from other people, like just listening to you guys, listening to you talk about the drone stuff. I'm just like, okay, I love that quote you just said. If you've got one, you've got zero. And honestly,
for
now
real.
it makes me think as a producer. I'm like, okay, now I know what to ask when I talk to
exactly.
Yeah,
What's your backup and
Yeah.
what is it like? Is it the same thing? Does it shoot the same?
Yeah.
All those
exactly.
things are
And I need to
important
and
I also heard
yeah.
that you have a technician on
Yeah.
set that can help you
For
with
sure, yeah.
whatever
which
it's
makes
happening.
me say, okay, then that's not a one-man job. It's a
Yeah,
two-man.
exactly.
And there's prep and all that.
Exactly.
That's the thing is, a lot of times you don't know what you don't know. So
Yeah.
you have to be open to everybody. And honestly, frame and focus, you guys are really doing the nuts and bolts. It may be, let's put it this way, not everybody's going to be like, oh, this is the most exciting thing, but there will be people that actually it'll educate them. It's literally you're doing what we talked about this day and age with information. You're putting the information together. When they listen to this, they're learning.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Alex is going to open this podcast up when we're done, and he's going to he's going to learn. We're all going to learn from him. But the thing about it is that's the thing is there's going to be somebody that you guys influence.
Yeah,
that
and that's
will
the
come
main
back.
purpose, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're
Yeah,
not doing
exactly.
this for more than the best reason is that just gonna educate people.
We're not?
Yeah.
And like real production
I thought I was getting something out
information
of
feels
this.
like a kind of closed door, walled castle situation.
Totally, yeah.
Like the vast majority of content on YouTube and elsewhere is like people that portray themselves as cinematographers or whatever the role is, but really 90% of it is like sitting in that room with that setup, with that camera on the same tripod and the same lights.
Lester, I did this so that I
talking
could get
vaguely
one more
about
of
stuff.
I did this so I can get one more of these and stay up all night because I've got to do a deck. I've got to do a pitch deck, guys.
After this, oh no.
I'm working after this. I'm working after this, which I'll probably just put on the other frame and focus stuff and
There you go.
just listen while I'm doing that.
Get us some
Double
views, dude.
speed,
There
one
you
in
go.
each ear.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the same time.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's yeah, man.
Anything to bring down the barriers and let people kind of in on this world that for a long time has been really
Like a
exclusive, but
Total mystery.
now
yeah.
all the camera tech that we have at our fingertips has kind of opened it up to make it more accessible. So making this knowledge more accessible.
What do you
Yeah,
guys?
100%.
What are the goals for frame and focus? What are the
Yeah, where are you guys trying to go?
Where you want? What do you want to do next?
I want to get Lawrence Shear on here.
I
Him
wanna,
and Scorsese on him. That's
I
the
wanna
goal.
get Christopher Nolan
Yeah, dude.
by my side, talking
Yeah.
about Interstellar.
How to work a practical effects nuke
No,
into your
I
next.
think
Yeah, that'd be
I
sick.
think the main
Commercial.
goal is at least for myself. What I like the most is meeting new people. That doing stuff.
That's
you know?
definitely my goal as well. Building this community and meeting more people and bringing you guys on is great too, because it's like then I'm learning things and it's like our audience is learning, so it's it's great for everyone.
After we're done with this, I got an idea that might help you guys out. That would actually be help to move some things
Off
along.
the record.
Yeah.
I don't want to say this
Closed
idea for
doors.
everybody.
Subscribe to our Patreon for more.
There you go. Yeah, it's
That's right.
just trying to tell you
Frame
some
and
things that
focus
might
after
actually be
hours.
fun to
Alex,
after
do you
hours.
have someone that you would like to nominate?
Yeah, I think Joseph, the VFX animator that we work with a
I
lot.
love Joseph. That's
yeah,
my boy.
He's just a super nice guy, but also insanely talented
Yeah, he
and
is.
seemingly entirely self-taught.
Yeah.
Like super scrappy, but making like top tier shit. And it seems like that whole VFX animation rendered output stuff is going to be definitely like already being used on a lot of like
Yeah.
full length
Like every
stuff.
project.
But
Joseph
we
is
have.
my special baby boy. I love that guy. I
Yeah.
want to pick him up and be like, "You're mine forever."
Yeah, it's one of those guys that
you.
you see
Love
him
him.
come and you just want to hug him.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a great guy. He is incredibly brilliant. Like
Yeah.
incredibly brilliant.
He's driven too. He puts out
yeah.
like some crazy high quality shit on his YouTube channel.
He's
Yeah.
really good.
That's cool.
Joseph is. I really think that would be a really good episode.
And good insight,
Yeah.
just into that whole
Yeah.
kind of world.
Yeah.
that-
How to combine, how to bond, how to blend,
Yeah.
How to listen to Lester or myself ask for stupid stuff that he's like, well, we really can't do it that way.
how do you deal with me?
Or me. No, he's had to deal with me. So actually, I think that's how he could easily deal with you. He's
Yeah,
like, I've dealt with
that's
Brandon.
probably, yeah.
I dealt with
That's
Brandon.
probably it
I
is.
think Lester's kind of like a little less. There you go.
Yeah.
But no, he's done some amazing things for
Yeah.
Stll Studios.
Yeah, we're
awesome.
we're
I'll have to
definitely
check
gonna
stuff out.
bring him.
Cool.
Who you
Cool
guys
episode.
looking to right now? What are, and some people that you're looking at for the next few episodes?
I don't know. I don't really have.
We have a few on the list.
It
Also,
might be,
just
it might be the
generally,
list
I
that we
think-
made.
Good
think
job
there's-
sticking with it and actually making more than one episode. I feel
Yeah.
like half of my friends have made a podcast and they just kind of.
You're like, oh, this is hard. This is kind of a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a decent amount of work.
Yeah.
That's
It is a
why
lot
I'm
of
not
work.
doing it.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not doing it. Because it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, but
Yeah, it's
fun.
always
It's
great to be a guest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
really good to walk away, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
let me know when that's posted. I'm excited to watch it.
We're excited as we give you a thumbs up. And
Yeah.
go, it was real good,
Yeah,
guys. Thanks.
Yeah.
Grumble,
Hope-
grumble,
Say yeah.
grumble.
Hope you got all my bullshit and cut a bunch of my shit out. 'Cause
Yeah,
trust
make
me,
me
I
sound
talk a lot.
smart. God damn it.
Yeah.
That's
All right,
hard.
just a big reminder of people, we have the podcast on Spotify and iTunes, and we have a YouTube channel with the Frame and Focus podcast title in it, so you can just type it on the search bar, do it, subscribe, like, and share.
I suppose you guys are gonna have merch coming soon,
Reviews.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ooh.
that'd be cool. We should
Ooh.
probably
Yeah.
do that at some point.
we'll probably do that.
It's like when we're
Fine.
not editing all
Yeah.
of these things.
Buy all
All right.
that stuff.
Thank you guys, and to the next one.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for coming on. I
Remember,
appreciate
everybody,
Yeah, thanks
like,
for having us, man.
Yeah.
like, subscribe. You better be smashing that like and subscribe button. These
Obliterate.
guys
Brandon,
work
Brandon,
hard.
Yeah.
invite people looking at the camera.
All right. Every one of you that's watching right now, you know me. I will show up to your house, and I know you'll do anything to keep me from showing up to your house. Watch it, like it, subscribe. Frame and focus.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thanks, dude. Thanks, y'all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.